So what we look for in the annual competition for the best use of Apteco is 5 things. The effective use of the Apteco software, creative use of the technology, a strategic change for the business, a tangible result, and the commercials of the result. And you've just heard from Natalie what a fantastic use case Goodwood put in, and they are the winners from last year, but their term as winners is coming to a close. This morning, on the train down from Leamington, I was reading some of the entries in the best use of Apteco competition for 2025. And we've had the biggest ever set of entries, and we'll look forward to presenting those at the Apteco conference, which is on the 13th of November at the British Film Institute on the South Bank. And for those of you who've not enjoyed living through COVID and streamed conferences, I'm glad to say it's fully in person, one day, and the awards will be presented there and then with celebration. So if we look at the Goodwood case, I think the most striking thing that we picked up when we do the judging is in 2 parts, where we have a group from all around Apteco, around the world, who participate in Apteco judging to pick the finalists, and then the attendees of our conference vote on the presentations those finalists made. But what I recalled when looking back at the Goodwood case was that strategic decision. Of those 5 topics, it seemed the most significant was the realisation that 30 brands was actually going to do damage to the whole of the Goodwood estate. So it was a strategic change from brand silo activity into whole estate activity. But they were also highly creative. They're great at how they present the materials. They proved the effectiveness. You've seen some of the numbers. So you could see that they'd actually made that transition from separate teams in silos sending their own lists to an estate email. And they've done so, as any of you who've been to Goodwood will know, with class, with quality, with a beautiful presentation that ties into the brand. So effective, creative, strategic, they were all there. But they also showed the tangible results of the change. And for sure, when you go back to base, you're going to be talking to your CFO or your senior leadership team, you've got to be able to show that this thing actually worked. And Goodwood, as you've just seen, had big numbers. Numbers in terms of percentage change for unsubscribes, numbers in terms of attributed revenue, numbers in terms of hours saved. And it is quite a common topic in the applications for the award that we see, the entries for the award, is time saved. People actually measuring how effective the marketing team can be. And then finally, commercially, the fact that they can generate that much revenue out of it. So clearly a strong entry. Of course, there was detail in there about how Goodwood and RQ used our technology, but we're actually looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at what did they do with the marketing, with the award. Now, when Daniel collared me earlier and said, would you mind doing this? He didn't know quite how excited I am about Goodwood and quite how keen I am, because I have lived the entire experience. And you're not all going to be able to see this, but on my iPad here, I have my inbox sorted for Goodwood. And it goes back years and years and years. And Natalie, you're not close enough to see it, but there's a load of email down here that's 2020, not 2019, 2020, and it's unread. Yeah, I didn't touch it. Whereas up at the top here, and particularly the one that I've picked up, is an event that I didn't know anything about until a recent visit, which I'll tell you more of. And this is Good Woof, and you've got to love an estate that's 300 years old that's still prepared to take the mickey out of itself. But it's a Good Woof branded estate email because I entered my interest in it. I've got a Labrador called Django, and I would love to bring Django to Good Woof. And there's a lot of stuff about Good Woof, but look down here, we get the estate part with branded goods, Sunday lunches, and Christmas dinner. So I've lived your experience. I've seen it. even more, when Natalie entered the award judging, after we selected Goodwood as a finalist, Natalie and her team entered, and we selected them as a finalist, we have a bit of a conversation about how we will present the case at the conference. And I revealed to her that at that time, a year ago, I was in the good fortunate possession of tickets for the revival. I'd been given them for my birthday. So 3 weeks ago, I attended Goodwood for the first time ever. I had that present, and it's historic car racing, and if you've never been, go and have a look. I mean, if you think of an E-Type Jag as a really nice, sleek car that cruises down the seafront, they are monsters with flames coming out of the exhaust pipe, with guys who are determined to get past at the chicane, which is where I was sitting. It was absolutely astounding, fantastic racing, even though the weather was a bit grotty. But as part of my trip with my group of 11 family members, we also went to a war grave for great uncle Jim Smith, who was killed flying a Spitfire during training in cloud in formation in the Second World War. And it was only when we went and visited his grave that we realised that where he had been training at RAF West Hamnet is what we all now know as Goodwood. So I'd spent the previous day sat at the chicane watching historic cars racing around the perimeter road of where great Uncle Jim had been training. And I was totally sold on Goodwood, the good work, the Festival of Speed, the revival. I thought, this is all fantastic. And then to add to it, I have a hobby. And my hobby is flying little planes. So obviously I have an affinity with great Uncle Jim. And you can't fly a little plane into the revival because they're using the track. You know, there's lots of people there. They don't want some amateur like me coming storming in. But you can land on the runways for the Festival of Speed, and I imagine also for Goodwood. So I am planning now to fly my little plane from Wellsbourne and bring my mother-in-law, whose uncle it was that was killed, and we're going to land on the very same runways as he was training on in the Second World War. So there you go. And I have one final thing just to compliment the Goodwood team. You've probably seen the website from time to time. It is fantastic, and to hear that you're spreading the interest and the data onto the website experience is great. But I've been working with an American client that has just been acquired. They've been hugely busy, and in my email last week to this guy, I said, I know you've been busy with planning and budget and meeting the new CEO and everything that goes into that. If you want a little light relief, have a look at this website, because it's where I'm going this weekend. And it is the very epitome of Britishness. The Goodwood Revival website, with those lovely gifts. You've got the slow motion of a Spitfire coming to land. You can see the propeller spinning. You can see a beautiful woman dressed in 1940s gear. You can see fancy British cakes. So well done, Goodwood. You are a great British brand. Thank you.